We see Stonehenge as a ruin, a skeletal arrangement of silent stones on a windswept plain. Archaeologists and historians tell us it was a temple, a solar calendar, an astronomical observatory, or a burial ground for ancient royalty. They speak of its alignment with the solstices and the colossal effort of its construction. But these explanations, while logical, feel profoundly incomplete. They explain the how but never truly touch the why. What if Stonehenge was never meant to simply observe the heavens? What if it was built to open them? What if this great circle of stone is not a relic of primitive worship, but the dormant, weather-worn machinery of a gateway, a portal to another world, another dimension, built by people who understood the fundamental fabric of reality in a way we have long since forgotten? To envision Stonehenge as a machine, we must first look at its components not as simple blocks of stone, but as precision-engineered parts. The entire structure is composed of two primary types of stone, the massive outer sarsens, and the smaller, more mysterious inner bluestones. This is not an accident of geology. It is a deliberate technological choice. The sarsens, a type of silicified sandstone, are incredibly dense and rich in quartz crystals. As we've considered before with other ancient structures, quartz has piezoelectric properties. When subjected to stress or specific frequencies, it generates an electrical field. The colossal sarsen trilithons, the iconic three-stone archways, were not merely decorative. They formed a massive outer capacitor ring. Their purpose was to gather, store, and amplify telluric energy drawn from the Earth itself, which is particularly strong on the Salisbury Plain, a known convergence point for ley lines. But the true heart of the machine, the element that makes it more than just a power plant, is the bluestones. These stones are alien to the Salisbury Plain. They were quarried and transported over 200 kilometers from the Preseli Hills in Wales. Why go to such an astonishing effort for a few dozen smaller stones? Because the bluestones are unique. They are a form of dolerite, but a specific type with unusual acoustic and energetic properties. They are known as ringing rocks. When struck, they produce a range of complex, harmonic tones, almost like a metallic bell. Furthermore, modern analysis has shown they possess a high concentration of certain crystals and a detectable magnetic field. These bluestones were not just building materials. They were the central processing unit of the gateway. They were arranged in an inner horseshoe and circle, the focal point of the entire structure. They were the resonant core. The energy gathered by the outer sarsen ring was channeled and focused onto this inner arrangement of bluestones. Now, imagine the activation sequence. It begins not with a switch, but with a celestial alignment. The summer and winter solstices are not just dates on a calendar. They are the keys. The precise moments when the Earth's magnetic field is optimally aligned with the sun. At the moment of the solstice, sunlight streams through the main axis of Stonehenge, striking the central altar stone. This is the trigger. This focused beam of light, combined with the immense telluric energy surging through the sarsen capacitors, created an intense energy field. This field, in turn, would cause the bluestones to vibrate at an incredible frequency. This was not a crude mechanical vibration, but a precise, controlled quantum vibration. The bluestones would begin to ring, not with a sound audible to the human ear, but with a complex symphony of ultrasonic and harmonic frequencies. This symphony of vibration, powered by the Earth and triggered by the sun, was the true purpose of Stonehenge. It was a frequency designed to do one thing: momentarily thin the veil between dimensions. The air within the stone's circle would shimmer, not with heat, but with a distortion of space itself. The familiar laws of physics would begin to warp and bend. The portal would open. What lay on the other side? Not a world of monsters or demons, but something far more strange and profound. Perhaps it was a dimension where the fundamental constants of physics are slightly different. A world where thought and reality are more directly linked, where consciousness can shape matter. A silent, luminous world, not of physical substance like our own, but of pure information and energy. The builders of Stonehenge, the so-called Neolithic peoples we imagine as primitive farmers, were not opening a door to trade goods or conquer lands. They were opening a gateway to knowledge. They were plugging their consciousness directly into a universal library. Think of the implications for this ancient civilization. They would not have needed to invent writing to store information. They could access it directly. Complex mathematics, celestial mechanics, sacred geometry, the principles of agriculture, and the secrets of biology could be learned not through painstaking trial and error, but through direct communion. This would explain the sudden, explosive leaps in culture and technology we see in the Neolithic period. It wasn't slow evolution. It was a series of downloads. The intricate carvings on stones at nearby sites like Newgrange and Noth are not mere decorations. They are complex diagrams, star charts, and mathematical formulae gleaned from the other side, transcribed into stone by minds struggling to represent concepts far beyond their normal vocabulary. Their relationship with the natural world would be fundamentally different. By understanding the energetic and informational basis of reality, they would have seen the world not as a collection of dead objects, but as a vibrant, interconnected web of consciousness. They could communicate with plants and animals, understand the weather patterns not just by observation, but by feeling the shifts in the Earth's energetic field. Their magic and shamanism were not superstition, they were applied physics, a practical technology based on a deeper understanding of reality. The gateway of Stonehenge was likely not a physical one in the sense that you could walk through it. It was a portal for consciousness. The Druids, who came much later but inherited the sacredness of the site, were perhaps the last inheritors of a diluted tradition. Their rituals and initiations, their years spent in silent contemplation in nature, were attempts to train the mind to be able to withstand and interpret the torrent of information that came through the gateway. Only the most disciplined and prepared minds could enter the portal's field and return with their sanity intact. To an unprepared mind, the sheer volume of information would be a form of annihilation, a complete dissolution of the self. The society built by these portal users would have been unlike our own. Without the need for vast hierarchies to control information, it might have been more egalitarian. Wisdom, not wealth, would be the most valued commodity. Their focus would have been on spiritual and mental development rather than material accumulation. They built these colossal stone structures not as palaces for kings, but as tools for the collective evolution of their people. Other stone circles and megalithic sites scattered across Britain and Europe were not cheap imitations of Stonehenge. They were nodes in a network, resonators and amplifiers that could receive and stabilize the energy and information broadcast from the main Stonehenge portal. It was a Neolithic internet of consciousness. So what happened? Why is the portal now dormant? Why are we left with only silent stones and unanswered questions? A machine this powerful and this sensitive would also be incredibly dangerous. Opening a rift in space-time is not a trivial matter. Perhaps one activation went wrong. A solar flare, a sudden shift in the Earth's magnetic field, or a human error in the ritual could have caused a catastrophic overload. The portal may have become unstable, a bleeding wound in reality rather than a clean incision. Instead of pure information, something else might have started to leak through channels. Dissonant frequencies that drove people mad, or a form of energy that was toxic to our biological and psychic environment. The stories of a land of myth, of the fair folk or the Cid from Celtic legend, could be a distorted memory of this. Beings of a different dimension, incomprehensible and dangerous to humans, who began to cross over through the unstable gateway. The legends often describe them as beautiful but immoral, with a strange relationship to time and a penchant for luring humans into their world, from which they rarely return. This could be a folk memory of people being lost to an unstable, chaotic portal. Faced with such a crisis, the builders would have had only one choice: to shut it down. the decommissioning of Stonehenge would have been an even greater feat than its construction. They couldn't simply knock it over. They had to carefully and deliberately break the circuit. This might explain the state of the monument as we find it. Certain key stones seem to have been toppled or moved. The altar stone is fractured. Perhaps this was a last, desperate act of cosmic sabotage by its own creators. They broke the machine to save the world, severing the connection and allowing the veil between the dimensions to heal and thicken once more. Another possibility is that the knowledge itself was the cause of the decline. Perhaps the information from the other side was too much for the human mind to bear in the long run. It could have led to a kind of cultural schizophrenia, a disconnect from the physical reality of our own world. Or perhaps it revealed a truth about the universe's ultimate fate, or humanity's insignificant place within it that was so profound and terrifying that it broke their civilization's will to continue. They might have dismantled the portal simply because they learned something they wished they hadn't. After the gateway was closed, the knowledge would have faded within generations. Without the direct connection, the high science would have devolved into myth and superstition. The complex understanding of quantum mechanics and cosmic energy would become garbled tales of gods and magic. The operators of the portal would be remembered as wizards and priests. The precise techniques would become empty rituals. Humanity was cut off from the source, thrown back on its own resources to slowly, painfully rediscover the secrets of the universe through the clumsy methods of physical science. Today, we walk among the stones of Stonehenge as tourists. We are separated by millennia from its creators, but perhaps by something far greater, a fundamental shift in the nature of our reality. We look up at the stars and feel a sense of loneliness, of cosmic isolation. But maybe that isolation is artificial. Maybe it's a quarantine, self-imposed by our distant ancestors for our own protection. The stones of Stonehenge are not a monument to a primitive people's ambition, but a memorial to a connection that was lost, and a warning about the dangers of opening doors that you may not be able to close. We are a species with amnesia, living in the shadow of a forgotten golden age when our minds roamed the cosmos. The stones are silent now. Their song has ended. Their power is dormant. But the machine is still there. The components are still in place. And as the Earth continues its celestial cycles, and our own science begins to probe the strange nature of quantum reality and multiple dimensions, we must ask ourselves a critical question. What would happen if we ever figured out how to turn it back on?